welcome to Penryn for this afternoon, and nice to see it's lovely and dry as well for us, so we hopefully should have a good day. Welcome to everybody. Obviously, the Prayer Book Rebellion, we gather here every fair day to commemorate the start of the Prayer Book Rebellion in 1549, when the government of Edward VI imposed the Book of the Common Prayer in English on a mainly Cornish-speaking population. Along with the poor economic conditions, the attack on the Roman Catholic tradition church led to an explosion of anger. The Cornish, perhaps with its ancient wish for independence, rose up and marched on Exeter. The king sent his Lord Protector Somerset to implement the prayer book, change theology and practices, and to pacify the rebels. As a result, thousands of Cornish patriots died in defence of their faith, language and their Celtic customs, and this is what we remember here today with this service. So thank you, and I would like to hand over now to Howard Kernow.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's working. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Can I just tell you a little bit about the procedure, because often people come back afterwards and say, well, what are you doing? What exactly is the event? The Mayor is quite correct. This came about back in the year 2000 when a group of individuals travelling on a bus coming home from the home of St. Penryn, rather Kieran in those days, coming back from Ireland, clubbed together on the back seat of the bus and raised some money to put up this stone here. But since then, and very soon after that, we said it's wrong to be looking back solely to those people 400 or 500 years ago who gave their lives, because, for example, 2 years ago, Sergeant Smith's wife was here from Truro. You remember, he was blown up in Afghanistan. And so we wish to make this a memorial to all those people who have died in service for their beliefs, for their ideas, for their country, including especially those who are still fighting today. So the formal part of the ceremony will start with Barth Muir, the Grand Bard, giving an address, followed by some prayers from Father Mark Mesley, and assisted by our dear old colleague we're very proud to see here from the city of Falmouth down the river, Reverend Brian Coombs. And so stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, you've got the words in your hand, the bit of paper, hail to the homeland, and that will be the end of the ceremony. So you can see at this moment, I'm just trying to make it last a little bit longer. So Maureen Fuller, our Grand Bard, all the way down from the border up in Soldage.
I'm proud of it too. Gorsedh to you all. Pista, Eugenet Bozoma, in Penryn Arta, Racan Offlin or Bennick Ma. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm pleased to be here again in Penryn for this very special service. We are gathered here today to remember Cornish men and women who have given their lives in the service of their country. This stone is their memorial, and for some, the only memorial they have, as many are known only to God. The Cornish have never had an easy life. In fact, it has been a constant struggle against hunger, finding housing, rearing children, and making ends meet. Not forgetting to mention tax-gathering rulers who inflicted demands on the Cornish and took away their prayer book and the Mass that they knew, which deprived them of the little solace they could find in church. And even today, in the time of food banks, lack of affordable housing and the lack of work, necessitating Cornish people having to find work outside of Cornwall, life for some Cornish people is still about suffering. Many have had to leave our beloved land to find work to keep their families. A lot of them were hard rock miners, famed for their knowledge. But life was not easy when they got to their new lands. Australia, for example, has little fresh water, and many died from lack of it, especially the women and children. But it is this struggle that has honed the character of Cornish men and women and made them survivors. It has also made them strong to stand up and be counted, especially when they were needed to make a stand against injustice. Today we remember those who walked from St Kevin to Blackheath in 1497 to complain about King Henry VII raising taxes to fight the Scots. The suffering in the wake of this event was great. Many were executed for their complicity in the uprising, and their property was seized. We remember the Prayer Book Rebellion of 1549 and those who marched to Exeter to ask to keep the old prayer book with its service in Latin. And we remember the 900 Cornishmen who were slaughtered in 10 minutes by the mercenaries. Others were executed afterwards for complicity. We can only imagine the hardship this caused back in Cornwall. Bereft of 900 men in their prime, the breadwinners for their families. Last year we commemorated the First World War, and we think of all those soldiers who left Cornwall to fight so that we might live in peace. We remember not only those from these shores, but also those from the diaspora who fought under another flag, but were Cornishmen still in their hearts. In Australia last year, I was able to go to the War Museum in Canberra. On the memorial plaques, you could see many Cornish surnames who served with the Anzacs, and 3 Cornishmen gained the Victoria Cross at Gallipoli, namely William Simmons, William Dunstan, and Albert Jacka. Recently, I opened my national newspaper and there was a photo of Albert Jacka with an article about him and his exploits, bearing the headline, "Was this the bravest man in the war?" It said he was an Australian, which is true, but he was a Cornishman living in Australia, and I was very proud to see that headline. In Cornwall also there were 3 winners of the Victoria Cross. They were Horace Curtis, James Finn and Ernest Pitcher. On July the 25th this year, we remembered the people who fought in the Battle of Britain, mostly young men who answered the call and demonstrated their bravery. There were many documentaries showing their daring flying, many of whom had few flying hours under their belt before they found themselves in battle. This commemorated the worst day of the battle, when every plane they had was up in the sky defending our shores, Cornishmen amongst them, my own father included. We remember all those Cornishmen who fought in World War II. Cornish men and women continue to answer the call and show their bravery and commitment in recent wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. We remember all Cornishmen who fought in conflict, whatever their rank and the families they left behind. We salute them all for their bravery. I will end with the Celtic benediction for all Cornish men and women who have died in conflict down through the ages. Benath Celtic. Praise Dún Resig and Morden These. Praise Dún de Nui and Air These. Praise Dún and Dor Cosel These. Praise Dún Splana and Stair These. Praise Dún and Mappa Grays These. The Celtic benediction. Deep peace of the running wave to you. Deep peace of the flowing air to you. Deep peace of the quiet earth to you. Deep peace of the shining stars to you. Deep peace of the Son of Peace to you. Amen. Kernow Bisvican, Marastabion.